Hey, this is Melina,
It's Ariel.
and welcome back to AM in the PM podcast. It's been
Yay!
ages, and I know you guys have
Been
missed
so
us.
long.
You've been crying and wondering where have we
Yearning,
been? Yeah,
yearning for us to come back.
and we answered your prayers. You're welcome.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So we thought that, before we dive into another season of AM and the PM, which, as those of you who have listened before know, it can kind of be about whatever it is that we feel like we want to talk about in the moment. We
Yeah.
thought, yeah, we thought it would be good to give you guys maybe like some updates, some reflections. I was looking at the last aired podcast date, before we got on, and it was the end of February of 2023. So there's been a lot of
Oh,
movement,
wow.
change since then.
Yeah.
We're recording today's June
Yeah, I
12th.
checked yeah. And the last time we posted on Instagram about the podcast was September of 2022.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
So, it's been
So
a very long time.
it's been a long time. It's been 84 years, as old Rosie might say. But we are
Yes.
back. And for those of you who have stuck with us and are returners, welcome back. For those of you who are new, welcome. Um,
Welcome.
it's so funny how people in different times of your life will either know, like, will not know big parts of you. Like every once in a while, I'll post something on Instagram about like books, like my books.
Mm-hmm.
New people
Yeah.
in my life will be like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh, right. You don't know."
Right. I like wrote books.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, I feel like the older you get, you should have like a card of like important information about me and just give it to them.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
okay.
I feel like not a lot of people like know or knew that we even had a podcast. Like I'd be like, yeah, I have a podcast with my friend Marlena. They're like, you have a podcast? I'm like, yeah.
I don't have to tell you everything I do. Like, you know, my advisor at school Googled me to find a picture of me for like a presentation, and he was like, "Why am I
Mhm.
finding out about like a secret life that you have?" And I was like, "It's not a secret life." I just I'd never thought about saying it until now because it wasn't relevant.
Right.
But
Yeah, that's so cool.
so I think maybe, do you want to begin on updates? Because I feel like you have a pretty big life update.
Yeah.
Do you very
Yeah.
recently? Would you like to share? Actually, I feel like you should change your screen name on here because it's wrong.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. I don't know how to do that right now. Um,
I think I can do it for
yeah,
you. I'm gonna rename you
maybe.
while you
Okay,
talk. Okay, go ahead.
that's great. So the reason why she's saying my name needs to be changed is because I just got married, paid the ring,
Yay!
check
It's
her out.
beautiful.
She's
That's a good
gorgeous.
ring. And she's left
Yes,
the
he did a
home.
very good job. So I got married almost 2 weeks ago now. It'll be 2 weeks on Saturday.
Yay.
And I have been with my husband. It's so funny to say that now. My husband for a year. But we literally just got married. So we were together like less than a year. But so where do I start? So I guess I should start when we first met, or like I'm trying to figure out the timeline.
Sure. If you want to tell,
So
however much you want to tell, spill the tea to the girlies
yeah.
and the guys.
So
The podcast.
I I met my now husband Daniel in April of 2023. He slid on the DMs, girlies, and we went on a date 10 days later. And then we literally did not stop seeing each other since then. And so he asked me to be his girlfriend on June 10th of 2023. And then he proposed on January 6th, 2024. And we just got married on June 1st of this year.
Wow.
So big things. So it's been really fun. It's been a great time. Um, I mean, even just dating Daniel, as you know, Daniel has been amazing from day one. Like, intentional. He plans literally everything to a T. Even how he asked me to be his girlfriend, y'all might need to have like a whole separate episode for that. But I'm like, he basically rented out a movie theater and asked me to be his girlfriend via theater screen. Had a whole pre-made video and just asked that
Mm.
way. Insane. Just like literally a movie. Like, and he's one of the best people ever. So yes, I am no longer Ariel Ace, I'm Ariel Davis now. So,
It sounds
and I have
good.
this cute
It fits.
necklace. I have this cute little necklace. You can't really see it, but it has an initial D on it. So,
Cute. T
yeah.
is it Troy? No.
Right.
Daniel. Do you remember
Yeah.
what I said to you when I met him for the first time when we were in the car on the way home? Do you remember the conversation I had with you? I laugh thinking to myself about it sometimes. I was like,
I remember the first question you asked me when we got in the car. I can't remember the rest of the conversation,
what was
but
the
I feel like it was like you were like, because I was like, we went to Mel's, I had a little drink,
well, you were also on
and so
a muscle relaxant or something like that.
yes, because like I was dealing with like this weird like dizziness thing that was going on. It was weird. And so I was just kind of like quiet at the table. And I really honestly was just observing you guys meeting each other because I was like, I want to see what their vibe is. I want to see how they get along. And so when we got in the car, you were like, can I ask you something? And I was like, yeah. You're like, do you like him? And I was like, yes. You're like, okay, because like I think he's really good for you. And I was like, I do too.
Yes, I remember that. So it was both because yes, because you were low energy and I knew it was partially because of the meds, but then
Mhm.
also I remember saying like, "Do you like him?" And I remember prefacing with like, "You don't have to like him, it's okay. Like if you don't like him, that's
Mhm.
cool. Like sometimes you can meet a great guy and you're like, "Well, I'm just not
Mhm.
you in that way." But
Yeah.
I was like, because if you don't like him, he's great. So let him go. Like don't hold him up.
Yeah.
I was like, and I remember being
Yeah.
like, but if you do like him, do not fumble the bag because this is a great
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I remember like the energy of the conversation was. Like you're basically like, if you like this man, do not be dumb. Like
Right.
you better not mess this up.
Yeah. And I was laughing to myself. I think I told his sister that at the wedding. Um, which just made me laugh, because it was
That's
like
so funny.
because I feel like I just felt so strongly about that. I was like, this is
You did.
again, this is a great guy, and there's if you don't like him, I'm a little bit gonna be like, why do you like people who suck and not like people who are great? But whatever.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I was laughing thinking about that conversation was not too long ago. Now you guys are married, so but
Literally.
you do need friends who will tell you the truth. Um,
Yes, that's very helpful, especially if it's like, especially if you have a history of dating people that are not good for you, or you had some pretty terrible dating experiences, and your friends are like, "Hold on, we're a third party. We can see things that you don't see. This person, 10 out of 10. Please don't let them go. Listen
yeah,
to your friends, if they're wise, of course, but."
yeah.
Yeah, you guys were definitely, all of you guys actually were very much like, yeah, I like him for you. Like, he's amazing. He's a great guy. Again, I will kill you if you mess this up.
Yeah. 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 And I mean it's
Yeah.
true. Don't tell him I said that, but he's a great guy. You gotta keep the
I know. I know you guys have this like frenemy thing going on, so it's fine.
yeah. What would you say you've learned like about God through this experience with Daniel? Like how has your relationship with
Mm,
the Lord grown as a result of like meeting Daniel, dating Daniel, being engaged, getting married? Like
yeah,
what have you learned?
yeah. I would say, I would say that I learned that God is a redeemer and he very much answers our prayers and like in the way that like we don't really expect.
Mm,
Like like th- a lot of the times when I would talk about Daniel, I'd obviously talk about how kind he is, but like I would also like think about moments that were like significant to me in past relationships that like were pretty bad. And like dating Daniel, it was like there would be moments where he did something that like redeemed that hurt. Does that make sense? Like this thing was very painful and it hurt me, but then like Daniel did something to like cover it or like make it kind of like not even matter anymore.
Mm.
Um just like little things like in how he dated me, like always like opening the door for me, always he gets me flowers every single week to this day. Just like always being so attentive and like being of service. Like he's always like, oh, do you need this? Or like if I'm like, oh, my tire pressure light came on, even while we were dating, I'd be like, my tire pressure light came on. He's like, oh, okay, like I'll just take your car and you can take mine for the week. And
Mm.
I'll just like go get your tire fixed. And I'm like, what?
Mm.
I literally like, no, you don't have to. He's like, no, it's fine. Like I want to. And I'd be like, what? Okay. So like little things like that where it felt like in past relationships, I always had to strive or like I felt like I was trying to like earn somebody's love.
Mm.
Like with Daniel, it never felt like that. Like it just felt like I was okay just as I was. And he was like, yeah, I'm in this with you. We're together. Like you're my girlfriend, or you're gonna my fiance now, or like just like little things like that are but Daniel has always very much been like intentional. That was like one of the first words I think you even used when you
Mhm.
talked about him, where it was like he was very intentional about like what he wanted and what dating would look like
Yeah.
for him. So, and he's like that even now when it comes to like just future things and like having things put in place. So I would say there are a lot of things that happened in my relationship with Daniel that felt very redemptive, if that's a word. Yes. Where I was like, oh wow, that thing that happened to me sucked. But now it happened again, but this time in a much like healthier, safer environment.
Mm.
And this is what it was supposed to be. And I feel like loved now. Um,
Yeah.
and then when I was talking about like God answers prayers, there was like two different things where like the way Daniel's character is stuff that I prayed about like in high school.
Mm.
Like there were like little things that like Daniel did, like getting me flowers every week, or like writing me a letter, writing me a little note, or just like doing sweet things that it would like bring to my like memory of like I used to like just like kind of talk to God about this when I was in high school.
Mm.
Like that's really weird. That's such a coincidence how that's happening. Um, and I know I should be like more specific, but like my brain can't remember specifics right now. But I'm just like how Daniel has been consistently, and even just like him being a videographer is also something that I had like said just like randomly when I
Mm.
was like in high school, where I was like, it would be so cute to be with somebody who like works with cameras, because like they could like take pictures of you or like record you and stuff and da da da. And I was just like, and then it's like he's a videographer, and I remember just being like, interesting
Mm.
how I thought about that and just said that out loud to the Lord, just whatever at like 16, 17. And
Yeah.
now here I am, 30 years old, married to a videographer. So,
Yeah.
things like that. The one thing that made me cry actually after we got engaged was that I have on in my journal, I don't know where it is right now, but in my journal, like the front page, I wrote in like 2021, I wrote on the front page like all the characteristics of like what I wanted like in my husband. And I had written down like a little prayer, like, God, I hope whatever he's going through, you're with him and all this stuff. And then I was like, but these are the characteristics that I want in my husband. And I like wrote all of them down. And then I told myself, I said, I'm not going to look at this page until I feel like I've met my person, or
Mm.
like I'm engaged to like the person I'm gonna marry.
Mhm.
And so I didn't open it the entire time me and Daniel were together because I was like, I don't want to jinx this. I was
Mm.
like, I don't want to jinx this. So then like we got engaged. I think it was like the next day. I was like, oh, I have to go open my journal. So I like open up my journal, and like I said, anytime I talked about Daniel, I always talked about how kind he is, right? Be like, oh my God, Daniel's the kindest person I've ever met. As you know, you've met him. Genuinely the kindest person.
Mm.
And so I open up the journal and I'm like reading a little prayer. And then I look at the characteristics, and the first word is kind. And I was like, I'm out of here. I was like, no. And of course, I kept reading every single characteristic, and I was like, all of these are literally Daniel,
Mm.
like literally him to a T.
Mm.
And I was just like, and I just started like weeping in my bed, like, thank you, God. Like, you're just so amazing. And like, you really hear us when we pray.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
Yeah.
would say God is a redeemer. He answers prayer. Even
Yeah.
if it takes 14 years, he answers your prayers.
Yeah, I mean, because there's timing for everything.
Hmm.
We can't possibly understand because we're so finite and we're like bound by time. We can't
Yeah.
understand. Sometimes it's a yes, but it's just a yes, not right now for so many
Yeah.
reasons.
Hmm.
And I mean, he lives in North Carolina, so at the time you weren't even living in North Carolina.
Hmm.
In
Yeah.
the first place. So it's yeah, and I also think like the way that you describe the way that he treats you really is a model of like loving people the way Jesus loves them.
Yes, that too. Very much Christ-like love for
Yeah.
sure.
And it doesn't mean that there can't be boundaries, obviously,
Yeah.
but also like that idea of like unconditional love, and it's not, you're not a burden to me. I can
Hmm.
show up for you and it doesn't cost
Yeah.
me anything. I'm just going to not
Yeah.
expecting anything in return, but just because I love you. I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. No, because I always had this little like inner fear of like, what if I'm like too much for whoever I'm dating? Like, what if they're just like, oh, she's too much, she's a lot. And like Daniel never made me feel that way. He was just kind of like, yeah, man, I accept you. And I'm like, great. What's also funny is that we actually had like crossed paths before we even like
Oh.
dated. So when I was an intern at the counseling center, I interned at the counseling center at the church. Um, I was in my last semester, and I was very much like senioritis over it. Like I was like, I don't want to work too hard. I just want to get my hours for my internship and call it a day.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I'm not seeing anybody after 5 o'clock. Like I was, which is insane because most people who work need after 5 o'clock if they're getting therapy. And I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. And I don't remember this day, but Daniel, while we were dating, sent me a screenshot of like an email that he sent to me as when I was a intern at the counseling center, asking like, hey, like I'm looking for therapy and I want to do like after 5.
Oh my God.
Isn't that insane? And I literally was like, sorry, I don't have that time available.
And thank
Which
God.
listen, which in hindsight, perfect, because I was like, if we ended up dating, I couldn't date you. Like if I was your therapist, I couldn't date you. So this
No.
God knew what he was doing.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
He was like, and at first he was like, it was funny because it was like, and I was actually like kind of like annoyed. Like, what do you mean? Like, you don't have 5 o'clock? Like, how do you see people? And I was like, I'm just letting you know, I was in my last semester. I was over it. I didn't want to see anybody. I was like, mm-mm.
That's so funny. I mean, I'm glad because huge
Yes.
conflict of interest.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Huge conflict. I was like, yeah, ethically, I wouldn't have been able to date you. So it worked out.
Mm. Well, I mean, a lot has changed, is what I'm hearing
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
last year and now. And You started a new job since then, right? When did you start this current job?
Yeah. Actually, it was February of last year.
Oh, so right around the same time.
Around
Okay.
the time we did our last one,
Maybe that's
because
why. Maybe it was like it was like a big transition time. Maybe that's why it was like,
yeah, it was like end of February.
hmm, wow,
Um,
not long.
yeah.
Wow.
Because I've been there for like a year now.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, so I was doing intensive in home and then I was like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore.
Hmm.
And ended up going into like just being like part of a practice essentially. They're like a nonprofit organization, but like it basically operates like a practice essentially. So, yep, I've been there for a year.
Hmm. Fun. So lots
Yeah.
of good stuff going on.
Yes,
I'm
lots
happy,
of good things.
you know.
Yes.
People keep asking me like, how was the wedding? I'm like, obviously it was wonderful. Like, what answer do you expect me to? It sucked. I hated it. I hate seeing my friends.
Right.
Like, I weirdo.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, I feel like people remember different things about weddings. Like when I think about like Victoria's wedding, I'm like, all I remember is like having fun. Like I'm just like, I just remember like dancing and like having fun with people.
Yeah,
I don't remember really anything else. I barely remember the ceremony.
it was
All I remember is
hot,
that it was, yeah, I was gonna say I remember it was hot.
hot that day.
And then we went to the reception and that was it. I was like, I don't know why when people are like, how was the wedding? I'm like, it was good. I'm assuming.
Mm,
Like most people don't see the behind the scenes. So it's like, of course you're just gonna be like, yeah, it was great.
yeah, yeah. And you looked beautiful, and it was wonderful being part of
Thank you.
it. Being there was cool. It's cool to like
Yeah.
be at the age where you see friends celebrating like all kinds of big like
Hmm.
milestones that come with like
Hmm.
adulthood, whether that be like
Yeah.
marriage, pregnancy, like new
Hmm.
jobs, like starting
Yeah.
businesses. And
Yeah.
I feel very privileged in that like my circle of friends has always been very like ambitious and driven and
Yeah.
passionate and like loving,
Hmm.
and I think that's such a beautiful environment to be around.
Yeah.
The people around you are
Yeah.
growing because it motivates you to want to grow as well. So,
Yeah. It's crazy that we are the new adults. Like I'm just like, oh, we're the grown-ups now. Like we're really grown-ups.
yeah. Yeah. I feel like one of these days, so in Brazilian culture, like you call everybody who's older than you as a kid, like Chia and Chiu. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it's just a matter of time before like a small child calls me Chia, and that the day that that happens, I'm gonna weep. So,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
like,
No, that's real.
please, please.
You're like, I need to go lay down.
Pretty much. But when I think about it too, like the people I was calling Chia and Chiyu when I was like a kid in church were probably like around my age. So
Hmm.
I'm like,
Yeah,
ugh. 26
it's
feels really
crazy.
old when you're a kid, and then when you're older, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, hmm,
Yeah.
here
I
I am.
thought I used to think turning 30 was like the end. I was like, oh my God, if I'm not married by I'm 30, I'm gonna be and then I'm like, oh wait. It's not any different. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
really not that old, guys.
Well, Sasu and I were talking about that, about how I think part of the fear that comes with that for many people is like the fear of not having met arbitrary goals that you set for yourself. By the
Hmm.
time I'm 30, I have
Yeah,
blah, 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 blah.
right.
And it's like everybody's journey is different. It's not fair to hold
Hmm.
yourself to a standard. So, okay, that reminds me of something, a conversation I had with my mom, which kind of transitions into like a little bit of the updates I wanted to give, which is that so
Yeah.
my mom she's going, I want to say going back to school, but she's going to school for the first time.
Hmm.
She's going to a community college to get a like a certificate in English to
Hmm.
Portuguese translation, but it's like 27 credits. It's a lot of
Oh
credits
yeah.
for a
Yeah.
certificate. So we've been talking too about how like, oh, maybe you could, transition that into like an associate's degree or a bachelor's.
Mhm. Mhm.
My mom, she finished high school, but she never went to college. And so because she's an international student, she had to take like an ESL class,
Mhm.
which is a second language class. And
Yeah.
she was able to like test into the last, I think there are five into the last one because we've lived here since
Yeah.
one.
Mhm.
She loves
Mhm.
to read. Reading is
Yes.
good resource. And they had a little graduation ceremony fairly recently for
Mhm.
like all the people who passed ESL, especially because as I said, for many students it's like, oh, you've been doing this for many semesters. It's a big
Yeah.
accomplishment. It's a lot of them are like non-traditional age students, a lot of
Mhm.
immigrant students. Um and so she was like "Oh, there's gonna be this little graduation." She told us almost as like a joke. And my sister was like, "Okay, well,
Mm.
I'll come home like on Wednesday so we can go." My mom was like,
Yeah.
"We don't actually like I was just kidding, like we don't have to actually do it." And we were like, "No,
Yeah.
we are gonna
Right. We're
do
gonna
it."
celebrate. What do you mean?
Yeah. And she said something to me like, "Well, it's not as," she essentially said like it's not as big as like the things you've accomplished. And I was like, "That's not fair, like of you to say."
Mm-mm.
Because
Yeah.
the reason that you have like sacrificed so much and come here in the first place was so that I could have the opportunities that you didn't. So how unfair is
Mhm.
it for you to compare like me who already started here to you who started here
Yeah.
and to expect us to
Mhm.
have moved at the same pace? Like
Right.
that's not
Yeah.
good. That's not a good thing to do to yourself.
Mhm.
And so for me it's so now it's like me, my sister and my mom are all in school at the same time. And
Mhm.
it's cool to be able to see
Yeah.
like all those journeys. My sister just recently switched her major into accounting too, which I think
Oh,
is,
nice.
yeah, is a good fit
I
for
feel
her.
like that makes sense because Stephanie was like working with numbers like in high school,
Yeah, she's
right?
been working at an accounting firm and she comes
Yeah.
home, she works for them. Um, yes. So, and they definitely really needed her recently because it was like tax season.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so like seeing her find herself and even like my mom now as she approaches like middle age because she's 40,
Yeah.
she's still pretty young.
Yeah.
But so as she's been like going to school, she's been getting some translations actually for my sister's accounting place because they deal with like a lot of Brazilians.
Mhm.
And so like translating documents from Portuguese into English and like doing her classes and like just being like so responsible. And also my mom's a real estate agent, so she's like juggling all these.
Yeah.
And it's cool to
Mhm.
see her feel so empowered by like
Yeah.
I'm doing something for myself because I want to and I feel excited about it and like it's opening these doors. As I think education is empowering in many ways and
Yeah.
like for not it's not necessarily for everybody. Like my godbrother just graduated from a vocational high school,
Mhm.
the plumbing program. So now he just has like two more
Yeah.
years and he can get his plumber's license, which is so cool.
Amazing.
But
Yeah.
I mean that's still a form of education, you know?
Yeah.
And so
Listen, we need trade. We need tradespeople.
yes,
Okay.
I'm like, please, I will call you immediately if something happens to my pipes. So, yeah, so that I thought that was like a helpful perspective to think about, like that again, it's not fair to hold yourself to the standard of like, well, I need to
Yeah.
be here by 30. So there's so many things that
Yeah.
happen, major life events,
Mhm.
illness, like other things,
Yeah.
the pandemic, like that completely
Mhm.
throw your um path off, and it doesn't mean that
Yeah.
it's not still like held in the Lord's hands. It's not like he's like, "Ooh,
Mhm.
I didn't expect that actually." So you figure it out,
Right.
you know?
Like, whoa, I'm shocked. I'm surprised.
Right. Yeah. And so and then for me, so I'm starting my third year of my program, which in my head is my last year because I go off on internship like my fourth
Mhm.
year. So right now
Yeah.
I'm doing so many things. I'm like juggling so many things. I'm part of like two different labs. One of them has a program that's starting in 2 weeks and runs through the summer. But then I'm also working on like my dissertation, which is two parts. It's like a literature review and then like an actual study. And then like preparing to apply for internship. So it's a lot of moving
Yeah.
parts. And to be able to
Like
like apply.
you do so much.
God.
Oh, at the same time.
Yeah, the Lord gives me strength. But to be able to apply for internship, you have to propose your dissertation successfully. So I'm planning on doing that in October. And to do that, you have to have passed all your four comprehensive exams. And I recently passed my last one, so I'm officially a PhD candidate. I
Woo!
know.
Yeah, doctor.
Thank you. Um, and so that was a cool thing to like get the email for. Like
Yeah.
you've achieved like your candidacy. Because I just sat and thought about like the past couple of months of work, and my sister gave me like this for my birthday in 2022. She gave me this journal that's like a question a day, but it's for 5 years.
Mhm.
So every question, every time you flip,
Oh.
you can see like the answers of previous years. And
Oh,
so
cool.
yeah, so I'm like 3 rows down. I'm in the middle row.
Mm.
And I remember like around January, February, I had been looking at my responses to some of the questions, and I had been writing about like how like sad and like overwhelmed I was feeling just because it was very
Mhm.
busy, a very busy time of the program. And it's funny because like I don't even really remember feeling that way. Um
Yeah.
because like I just feel like my whole perspective and a lot has changed in my life that I feel like has really helped to improve that. But it's like what you were saying, God really redeems the time and he gives you the
Yeah.
strength to get through every day. And I do remember that, like on the days that were particularly hard or overwhelming, especially as someone who's like first gen. Um,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's so like the field of psychology, that's just like the doctorate field overall is not like people who are like first gen immigrants, students of color are not the majority, are not even
Yeah.
representative of like
Mm-mm.
national demographics.
No.
And so it's like one thing to be doing something first in your family and then also to be like one of not many in the field
Yeah.
can feel like a lot of pressure. And
Mhm.
so I know for me, what's been very helpful is sometimes I would wake up and be like, I'm so anxious about all these things I have to do today, but like I'm gonna give it to the Lord and I just need
Yeah.
to just do one thing at a time. I'm not even gonna think about the other things I need to do today. I'm gonna do
Mhm.
one thing. I'm
Mhm.
gonna pretend this is the only thing I have to do today. I'm going to
Yes.
ignore everything else because this is
Yes.
the only thing that can take my focus. And it's like you take one little step at a time, and then all of a sudden you look back and like 2 years have gone by pretty much.
Yeah.
And I feel so like empowered because I really feel like I've found I've found myself, I would say a lot in this program. And um
Yeah.
I've really developed a love for like belonging research, specifically belonging in higher education, which I think is also very deeply spiritual. Like how do we um encourage people to feel like they belong, which is very synonymous with like loved and valued
Mhm.
and secure.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, you know this, like so much of psychology and psychological research is on like that abnormal part of it, or like the what's wrong with you
Mhm.
is important. We need to
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
But I love the focus also on like, okay, now how can we fix that? Like, what is
Yeah.
the optimistic side? How can we bring
Mhm.
hope? Um,
Very solution focused.
Very solution focused, really, really honed in on like college students, and like even my mom going back to school, going to community college has been making me think about like either teaching or working in the counseling center at a community college,
Mhm.
non-traditional students because they have very high need. Um,
Yeah.
and so that's been like a real privilege. I feel more like myself by the day, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I'm tapping into something that's like very me. And like I'm getting into the groove. I don't always, not every
Yeah.
day turns out the way I wanted to. Yesterday was very stressful.
Mhm.
Because meetings like turned out a different way that I didn't want them to, but I woke up
Yeah.
today and everything was great. I had two great working days, a lot got done. Um,
Mhm.
but then also like this summer, I feel like I was telling one of my classmates that I've been very slow this summer.
Mhm.
Like I can do like less work than I'm used to. Like
Yeah.
fall or in the spring.
Mhm.
And she was like, that is because it's summer and you need to rest. And
Yeah.
really being mindful of like, you don't need, just because it's free time doesn't mean you need to fill it with work. Like
Yep.
today I had like an hour and a half. I got back from the gym and I had like an hour and a half before a meeting. So I went and I put on my bikini and I laid in the sun. I put on sunscreen. So Steph
Yes, good, good,
listening so she
good.
doesn't yell at me.
No, listen,
Um,
I would have been like, did you put sunscreen on?
yes, I
Because
did.
you better put sunscreen on.
Yes, I did. I laid out in the sun and I listened to a book for like an hour and a half, and it was so wonderful. And then I came in
There
and
you
I,
go.
but it's like,
Amazing.
yeah, especially on a day where I know like I'm gonna have 3 or 4 meetings and I have all this stuff
Hmm.
to do. I'm like, I need to intentionally do work.
Yeah.
Or I need to intentionally rest. And so I think both of those things have been really, I mean, there's a lot of like things going on in my life that are positive, and we don't have to talk about every single thing now because we will, we'll have wonderful
Right.
episodes in
Eventually.
the future. Yeah,
Yes.
but that's a pretty big one that I can think of is like I just really feel like in many ways I have been just like finding myself
Hmm.
past whatever year and a half that it's been,
Yeah.
and that's been very cool. And I've also just been I went to 3 graduations in the past like 3 or 4 weeks, both my god siblings
Yeah.
and then my cousin. And
Hmm.
it was making me emotional just in general. I think that like being the oldest in my family is so like gross because I have all these opportunities to be crying all the time. Like
Yes. Are you like the first, like everything, like first granddaughter, first niece, that sort of thing, or
on my mom's side of the family, yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Um, are you?
No, I have mm, two of my cousins are older than me. I
Mm,
can't remember which one of them was born first, but one of them is the first.
got it. On my dad's side of the family, I'm in the middle, like dead,
Mhm.
dead center middle.
Yeah.
And then on my mom's side, yeah, I'm like the first daughter, first niece, first grandchild, first great grandchild. Like
Mhm.
it was me for a bit
Yeah.
too, because my sister was the next one. Um,
Mhm.
I'm 6.5 years older than her, and then my cousin was born right after.
Got
Um,
it.
yes, so I am the oldest, and then even with like my god siblings, like I'm the oldest too.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, so I'm like, yeah, I'm just crying all the time. Like all of you are always doing stuff,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, stop, and I'm like, I can't because I live. So shut up and just let me
No, it's
cry.
really crazy. Even like, it's like my baby cousin is 17.
Mm,
I literally was like, I was 13 when you were born. Like, I was literally changing your diapers and like babysitting you. And now you're graduating high school? Oh, what? What? You're going to college? What is going on?
right. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
No, I 100% feel that. So it's like that. And then also I was just like the graduations have been making me think of like my graduation in the future and how I'm excited about that and how that'll be like a moment
Mhm.
of celebration. And I'm sure in that moment I'll look back and be like, all this hard work was worth it. And so like
Yeah.
looking forward is very helpful.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm excited. So stay tuned about where exactly I will end up, like internship wise. I'm hoping not Massachusetts. Um, because I just don't want to. But
Yeah,
if
you were trying to, I know you were thinking about going out of state
yeah,
for your internship.
yeah, and that's still kind of like what I'm thinking. But it's up to the Lord. But I would say
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the bigger updates of my life right now, and I've been feeling very warm in my heart thinking about it. But again, also being like, and you can rest
Yeah.
also. This is a lot on your
Yeah.
body, a lot on your
Mm-hmm.
mind. And it's funny because you tell other people that and you're like, yeah, just this year has been exhausting. And they're like, yeah, yes, that's why you are tired and that's okay. Like,
Right. That's why you need to sit down and rest.
right, close your eyes and go to sleep. And I'm like, but it's hard to tell me that, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I guess like, okay,
Proud of you.
thank you. Looking forward to this season of life/season of the pod. What
Mhm.
is like a piece of advice you would give our listeners based on what you've learned in the past
Mm,
year and a half?
past almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a loaded question, but this is what I've learned or my advice
Both like advice based on like what you've learned.
based on what I've learned. Okay. I would say like not every, well, literally everything is not in our control. I mean, we have control over certain things, but like I feel like for like big major things like letting go, like literally like the phrase says, let go and let God, even though, it's easier said than done, but like kind of just literally laying it at his feet and being like, you know what? You got that. I don't even want to think about this anymore. You got that is probably like the best advice I would give. Like, leave it at the feet of Jesus. Like, because it's easier that way. And he even says, like, my burden is easy and my yoke is light. So, like, take it upon yourself and you'll be at peace, basically. Um, because I feel like for me, like, relationships was like a big thing for me, like specifically in dating. Because I love all my friends, and my friendships are beautiful and amazing. Um, but like specifically like dating relationships, I felt like was such a big burden on me. I think as I was like getting older and like having these relationships that didn't work and just kind of wondering like, Lord, do you even like care if I get want to get married? Like, do you even like want that for me? Like, I literally would have like moments where I'd be like, do you actually care about me? Like, what is going on? Like, why does this keep happening to me? Type stuff. Um, and I just kind of hit a point where I was just like, I'm just going to leave this in his hands. Like I don't even want to think about it anymore. One, because I'm tired and exhausted. And being on these apps and going on these dates just wasn't working for me. I was like, this is not, I don't know how it's gonna happen, but God, you're gonna make it happen. So I literally was just like, I'm gonna just leave it at the feet of the throne and call it a day. And I don't remember the exact day I did that, but I am now married. So, you know, honestly, like just literally letting it go and really learning to trust God, which is hard, especially for me because I'm very much a control freak and I have anxiety. So, like, trusting and just being like everything is going to be good is not my natural emotion to think or my natural mood with things. I'm very much like, what if everything goes bad and everything
Yeah.
is catastrophic?
Mm-hmm.
So I really had to learn to like take a deep breath and just be like, okay, God, like you have to have this because I don't have it. So it's in your hands now.
Yeah.
Um, so that would be my advice, like literally give it to the Lord because his burden is easy and his yoke is light. I think that's is that the wording?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
had to think about it.
No,
Yeah.
yoke is easy, burden is light. There we go.
Oh wow. So clearly no. I mean
Either way,
it
either
goes
way,
right either
it's
way.
light and easy.
Yeah.
So,
Point is made.
yeah.
I would add to that. These sound like they're gonna sound like different things, but I feel like they go together. In addition to you saying let go, I would also add persist. And I think it's like
Mm,
knowing what to let go of and what to persist in. And it's like
yeah.
I think what you're describing is letting go of like worry and control, um,
Hmm.
which is so hard. But
Yeah.
then also persisting in like specifically I mean, I don't know the spiritual beliefs of every single one of our listeners, but like for us,
Sure.
persisting in like what the Lord has called you to, or even just like generally persisting in like pursuing your passion.
Yeah.
without necessarily being worried about things falling apart, because happiness anxiety is very real. Even if things are
Yeah.
going right, it's like there's the tendency in your head to be like, what if this all
Goes
like,
terribly.
yeah. Um, and then just lost my train of thought. Where's I going with that? Um,
You're
hello.
talking about persisting.
Thank you. Yes, it's 7:30 on a Wednesday. So at the end of a long day, my brain cells do not want to persist anymore. My brain cells want to go. Um, yeah, so letting go of like that's what I was gonna say, like the expectation of what things will look like while still persisting and persevering.
Yeah.
And then also like one thing I feel like I've learned or I wouldn't say it's the first time I've ever thought about this, but I've really been leaning into this past year and a half is like go where you are wanted and like go in
Mm,
places that you
yeah.
thrive in. And if you're feeling like a place that you're in is draining you, then really ask yourself like, do I need to be here? Do I need to be here as frequently as I do? Do I need to be here
Yeah.
as like as as presently as I am? Like, do I need to be associated with these people? Or who am I feeling like is pouring into me? Because
Yeah.
life changes and sometimes like a situation that used to serve you is now going to like actually suffocate your dream.
Yeah.
And I
That's
don't
so
want
real.
yeah, and you don't want to get in the way of God, like trying to prove,
Mm-hmm.
no, I want to keep this. And he's like, no, you can't, because this is actually gonna hurt
Because,
you.
yep. And then God has a way of just being like, you know what? Since you won't let this go, I'm going to take it away.
Yeah,
So,
don't do that. It's like you
yeah.
choose not to because your arm is gonna break, or you can just
Yep.
go and you'll be fine.
Hmm.
No.
Yeah.
So I would say like that's my advice as well. Like persist in what you know you're called to do. And if you're noticing that things around you are shifting, let them, because that's okay.
Mhm.
Like there
Yeah.
is beauty around the corner. The
Mhm.
way I described it to someone once is like when you trust God, it's like you would never, if someone that you loved handed you a gift box, you wouldn't be like, oh, I'm so scared. I hope it's not a snake in there. Like someone that you
Right.
love isn't gonna give
Yeah.
they're feeling cause
Yes.
no harm. But like that's why
Right.
so much of us like look at the future, but the future is a
Mhm.
gift that's given to us by
Yeah.
God. But we're so
Mhm.
afraid of like, oh my God, I hope there isn't terror and turmoil on the other side. And God is like, so why do you think I made
Yeah.
you? Like I, you know, and that's not to say like bad things won't happen and we're not gonna be stressed, but also
Yeah.
I think it's okay to wake up and be excited about like something good is gonna happen to me.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's all we got for you today. I mean, I feel like that was a lot. You're welcome. Again,
Yeah.
we came
I
back.
think it was very good. A good welcome back, you know. I'm excited.
Me
Very
too.
excited to start this back up again.
I'm glad we have a resident videographer now to help us.
Yes. Daniel will be our videographer, be our editor, amen.
Feels like like when when you read like a period piece and people marry for like it's like an alliance. Like I don't there's like a name for it.
Yes.
I forget what it is.
Yes.
That's what it feels like. It's like a
Like the dowry or like the bride price, you mean?
no,
Or
like when two kingdoms marry, because it's like there's mutual benefit.
yes.
That's what
Yes.
it feels like a little bit.
Mhm.
Even though I know you
Mhm.
married for love also, but it's like this
Yes.
business aspect comes with it.
Right. This will come in handy for me.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Like, we have married well. So, yeah, let us know if there's anything that you want us to talk about. I'm thinking maybe like, I
Yeah.
don't know, the second part of like Bridgerton season 3 comes out next week. Maybe that's
Oh my
something.
gosh, it literally comes
Uh,
out tomorrow.
oh my gosh, did I say next week and it's literally tomorrow? Where are we in
Yeah.
time? So maybe we can talk about
It
that.
comes out there's this girl on TikTok. I don't know if you've probably seen her videos, but she has like half black, half hot pink braids.
Mm-mm.
Have you seen her? She literally has been cracking me up because she's so obsessed with Bridgerton season 3 that she literally RSVP'd for their like London premiere like on like Netflix did this like special where it was like they're premiering it in London, and like you, if you RSVP, you can see like the screening of episode 5 because they only released the first 4. And she has literally all week since before all, she's like, guys, did you know that season 3 part 2 came out? Oh wait, no, it hasn't. Oh, I thought it did. Okay. She's literally like, can't, I have to send you her TikToks. They've been cracking me up. But
Funny.
she's like, yeah, so I saw episode 5 and yeah, I'm shaking. I'm like, okay.
Well, maybe we could talk about that, and when that comes out,
Yes.
we'll see. I'm sure there'll be
Yeah,
things.
because these are the last half episodes, right?
Yeah. And we'll
Yeah.
probably know too, or have an inclination of like maybe who the next
Yeah.
bout. So it could be honestly
Yeah.
a number of people at this point. The way
That's
that
true. I feel like if I were to guess, it would be either Benedict or Francesca.
they're setting it up like it's Francesca a little bit.
Yeah, which I'm like, why are we avoiding Benedict's season? Please.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm like Benedict's gonna age out. He's gonna become a spin.
Yeah, like he was literally supposed to be after Anthony. So I'm like,
We'll
guys, what's going on here?
Yeah, so we'll see. But this
Yeah.
has been AM and the PM. Thank you guys so much for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.